people think of AI solutions, we all need to realize that AI only comes as part of a software package, right? It's a small part often. And one way to visualize this is that the software is the car on the top left, and the AI is a component of the car, so maybe the engine, an important component, but a component nonetheless. And this is the thing I want you to remember, that users drive the car, not the engine. How the engine fits into the car is critical. How the AI fits into a larger software system is something we need to worry about. But often other things, brakes, seat comfort, mirrors, can affect the user as much as the engine. I'm going to tell the story of two devices now. The one on the left, the world's first ancient computer, the Antikythera. And the one on the right, and this is a picture of Steve Jobs all the way back in 2007 introducing the first iPhone. And when I lecture and I talk to my students here at Yale, I ask them, okay, what do you feel are the big differences between these two devices? What is the difference between on the left and the one on the right? And I get answers like, well, the one on the left is older, it doesn't have a battery life, the one on the right has better features, better display, better user interface, and we go back and forth, and they come. One is a calendar where the other could calculate dates, and we go on, and we have all kinds of ideas as to what they are. Let me tell you what I feel the fundamental differences between these two devices. The one on the left, we only found one. The one on the right, we have made billions of. And I would argue that that fundamental difference in scale is the biggest difference between those two.
And this notion of an adaptive basis function is precisely what's captured by a hidden unit, which is a fundamental component in a neural network. Again, this takes a set of input values, computes a weighted sum with learnable weights, and then it applies a nonlinear transformation. And this unit is also called an artificial neuron, given its resemblance to how neurons operate in the brain. You may know that neurons have these dendrites, which collect information from its surrounding environment in the form of chemicals called neurotransmitters. And these neurons fire or activate when this aggregate signal exceeds a certain threshold, which is called action potential. And when this happens, it sends an electrical signal to the other cells that are connected to this neuron. Observe that this is closely similar to how a hidden unit performs the computation.
Second is about the model. I know now we have a lot of choice, rule-based, machine learning, deep learning, large language model-based approach. My take is we don't necessarily go to the most fancy or most innovative methods. The simplest method that can address the problem is the best. So there's a lot of implementation issue, in addition to performance, security, usability, interoperability. We should consider all those when we actually think about implementing the AI solution in medicine.
You can see that these are emergency physicians who are trainees. The two on the left are interviewing the patient, which is the mannequin, and they're referencing the electronic health record instance that is there. They talk to the patient, and they come over to the attending, who is over on the right, and they have access to an AI dashboard along with the chatbot interface, which is the generative AI component. And one anecdote I want to leave you with is that when I discussed how the experience was for one of the trainees, he said that it changed the air in the room. Because before, they would present the information to the senior person, and senior person would pronounce, according to their experience, according to their formulation, this is what we're going to do. When they had access to the chatbot, he said that it made sure that all of them were looking at the same data. They reviewed the data together, they reviewed and talked about what the AI system had suggested, and they had some questions. And if they had questions, it was an equalizing factor where anyone could ask a question.
That is to say, it's very important we think about privacy, think about not only the regulations, but what we know it is possible to do to do the responsible thing, which is compute with this data as if they're your own, as their own family and family of others there, keeping in mind that individuals have different tolerance for the risk of privacy loss. And the myth that, oh, privacy is lost is definitely not true, and it's our obligation to protect it.
For part of this, I'll be taking you on an immersive journey into one of our digital health collaborations on the tiny archipelago of Zanzibar. It's just here off the coast of Tanzania. We'll be following community health workers in the Jamini Niafia program and see how they use digital health tools to improve the delivery of care.
Jamini Afya ni mfumo wa kidijitali tunaotumia SHV wote katika kurahisisha kazi zetu, kutoa huduma kwa jamii. Mfumo huu umo katika simu zetu za mikononi. Mfumo wa kidijitali wa sasa hivi unatusaidia sisi kuweza kukumbuka mgonjwa gani au mtoto gani ambaye hujamfuatilia na mfuatilia, tofauti na zamani. Zamani tulikuwa tunatumia makaratasi. Kwa ukitumia makaratasi unakuwa huwezi kukumbuka ni wapi nimekwenda, wapi sijaenda.
10 guiding principles. And when I showed this to colleagues who do machine learning at the sort of more theoretical level, they said somebody had to tell them this, but even though they're very basic, they're actually kind of important. And so we're going to, the rest of this segment, we're going to do this, each one of these principles line by line, and we're going to quote from the text extensively just to give you a flavor for what's there. So let's start. The first two I will label as the basics. They expect to see multidisciplinary expertise leveraged throughout the total product lifecycle. The second one is the one, good software engineering and security practices that are implemented. And both of those you can interpret as brush your teeth in the morning and do all the right things. So what do we mean by multidisciplinary expertise in the total product lifecycle? This is the V model. This is the lifecycle we've talked about earlier in this class, weeks 3 and 4. This transition from use cases down to implementation all the way back to deployment. And what they're saying is you should use multidisciplinary expertise, meaning involve doctors. The second is you're supposed to use good software engineering and security practices throughout. Again, don't code your software however you like, perform validation study and submit it. Have this entire process and use best practices throughout that. And that is the implication of that comment.
To conclude this section, the development of data-driven software in healthcare differs from consumer technology software development. The generation process for the data that you're using in healthcare is complex. There's multiple parties involved, and it's often heterogeneous across different systems. And interpreting the data itself can require both domain expertise, so knowing about the clinical process and the clinical workflow, as well as local expertise in the information technology and its implementation itself. Integrating these kinds of data-driven applications, and so I've been sort of vague about this, but clinical decision support is one of the main applications into health IT workflows can be a challenge for all of the reasons that you saw above with these different parties that are participating in potentially different systems. But standardization can really help developers in data analysis, and I've added sometimes here because the standardization is only as good as the implementation itself. And usually as software engineers, we don't have a lot of control over whether a health system has actually standardized their entire workflow or different components of their workflow. But the promise is there, and as I mentioned, some of these new APIs may make the opportunities for engineers more attractive, and in turn the opportunities for health systems to optimize their patient experience and their clinician experience better by virtue of collaboration with developers.
So let's say that you go to your primary care physician's office and you need a chest x-ray. That initiates this workflow where your physician orders a chest x-ray. From that step, we need to ensure that the study is protocoled correctly, meaning that we're going to do the correct type of study, that the exam is scheduled, so you come in at the right time to the right location, that you're imaged, that those images are pushed to a place where your radiologist can view and interpret those images, and then the results are sent back to your referring provider or to yourself in most instances. So in each of these, there are questions that we have to ask and workflow steps that we have to look at. So these are really the questions that we're asking on a day-to-day basis whenever we think about radiology workflows from where the patient enters and exits radiology. I've spoke about this before, but we really have to look at this as a combination of factors. our people, our processes, and then our technology. And it really is in that order. Sometimes we try to put technology first, and it never works that way in a real-world scenario. And that's why we're going through workflows today.
Well, we're going to be talking about CDS systems through a 4-part series. This first is talking about an overview of the development of CDS systems, and then we'll move on from there. So I think the first thing to start with is what a clinical decision support system actually is. And I think the best way to view this is, CDS systems are tools that are designed to help healthcare providers make decisions about healthcare situations. And they bring in additional information into those decisions, whether that's outside knowledge, data about patients, and all of those systems are designed to improve and enhance the health and healthcare of patients. And what you're going to see here is just kind of a decision pathway. This decision pathway is integrated within the EHR. It has a series of kind of steps that allows the provider to go through and view different criteria that may be used within that. For this particular pathway, one of the main decision points is to figure out whether particular medications need to be given for COVID. And then you can see as I kind of click through that, it allows you to be able to click directly into medication administrations. It pulls up order sets within that. And then you can move on and proceed from there with whatever additional steps you need to be able to do. And there's a lot of other things that can be built into these pathways, including clinical decision rules and other components.
So I think the emergence of this next generation AI-powered care tools and communication technologies will take us to a world where platforms will support both patients and providers, ensuring they have easy access to care delivery and monitoring with edge computing, and the delivery of information that is relevant for both parties, as I said, not just more data. A world where patients can access their electronic health records in simple, understandable language that matches their own health literacy and native language, and then contextualizes the information based on what is known about them in the health system. So don't make them call to ask you to explain what the chest x-ray means. Explain the chest x-ray reading to them in a 6th grade reading level in their own language with an understanding of what comes next. So fewer messaging back and forth, more care delivery. A world where patients have more ownership and engagement in their own health. They interact continuously with health monitoring, coaching, and behavior change, not discontinuously at these crisis points. Where the practice of medicine is infused by and supported with technology to make it feel more human, not the other way around. With processes in the background that are automagically delivering the right content just in time. The system knows my clinic. They know who I'm going to see for the next 6 months. Why can't I have a just-in-time delivery of all the relevant information about what has happened since the last time I saw the patient, what new clinical trials are available for their condition, and what new interventions have been recently guideline recommended for patients like this? We should be able to deliver that. And then one where clinical trials go out and find the right patients, not the other way around. And the enrollment in those trials is balanced based on the demographics of the patients who actually have the disease under study in the United States or in whatever country you're in, to ensure that the diverse and equitable results are produced, not just results on the small targeted population that was enrolled. So in conclusion, patient-generated health data will be a critical part of our understanding of human health and the exposome. Edge computing will be essential to address both the data storage demands and the privacy constraints. And patient-generated health data definitions, governance, and data rights must be established and standardized to promote equitable and sustainable progress, so we know who the data belongs to, who the metadata belongs to, who governs that data in the health system, who has rights to that data. Otherwise, all of that delays our ability to come together to start gaining the most amount of information and leveraging that data for human health as effectively as possible. Thank you so much.